Yes, as you folks may have seen a post I just posted, and I have a little commentary about this. Where is the affordable housing in northern Utah? Three question marks, parentheses, Ogden. I've been looking for affordable housing in or near Ogden. I've yet to find any truly affordable housing. What the fuck is the deal? Three question marks. Where do people find housing here when it takes everything you make just to pay rent? Question mark. How do you pay your other bills when all your money goes towards rent? Question mark. My adult son and I need housing now, but we cannot pay thousands of dollars on rent. No wonder there's many homeless here and so many judgmental people won't rent to anyone with records. Really? Three question marks. Again, no wonder there's such a bad homeless problem here. Well, look, let me step in and help you out here, pal. First of all, Ogden, as far as the Wasatch Valley goes, I've been out here in the Salt Lake Metro, Wasatch Valley for 2 years. The first year I lived here in North Salt Lake, it's a growing town, booming town actually, but it's an industrial area, and of course it's filled with those refineries, which were making me sick, literally, physically sick, and I had to get away from that, and I've moved up here to Layton, which is about 25 miles from the city, and of course my health has greatly improved, and so has my outlook. But yes, I do agree with this guy on the respects of things here aren't cheap. The federal minimum wage, I believe, is still $7.65, and Utah is one of the states that guideline is the federal minimum wage, which we all know $7.65 is absurd in today's economy. I personally think everybody should be getting paid about $15 an hour to start full-time or part-time, just from the sheer cost of things, you know. But that's me, you know. I'm more of a person who believes in what I deemed a term compassionate capitalism. You know, share some of the wealth, you know, just make sure your citizens have enough money in their pocket to make ends meet. You know, in this country, there's thriving and surviving. Most of us are just surviving, okay? The ones that are thriving, well, if you probably look into their backgrounds, you're going to find that they're doing some shady shit, you know, because what makes them head and shoulders above everyone else, you know? But hey, you know, if the fox is in charge of the chicken coop, well, the fox is never going to go hungry, is he? But reading this statement, I have a couple questions. If your son is of sound mind and body, my adult son and I need housing now. Why is your adult son still in tow with you? You know, I left home at 17, 100 years ago, and that might certainly have been premature, but it was a situation that I had to leave home because my father and I hated each other since I could crawl because he didn't want any redheaded adopted children. But that's another story entirely. But, you know, the bank of permissiveness. I mean, if this adult who would be deemed obviously over 18, why is your son not in college? Why is he not in the military or some form of trade school? What's holding him back to be teaming up with other adults and sharing a house? You know, I'll be the first to tell you, today's generation and generations going forward are not going to have the same opportunities that my generation and generations before me had, okay? Because there's more and more of us every year, and there's less and less jobs. And the qualifications for said jobs are getting much more stringent every year, and I think we would agree on that. And of course, the applicable and necessary levels of education seem to be increasing. But we're learning more and more that a 4-year college degree today is like what a high school diploma was 40, 50 years ago. So now you got to think, hell, not only do I need to get my 4-year bachelor science degree from an accredited university, now I've got to be thinking about going further into debt. If you don't have rich parents who will pay for the first 4 years, go further in debt to get your graduates, you know, your master's degree. which is 2 more years. So that would be 6 years of college. So I would say today, 6 years of college, which would give you your master's, is what 4 years of college would get you when I was getting out of college 30 years ago, or nearly 30 years ago. Okay? So it's more and more education, more and more cost for less and less return. So I think it's going to come to a point where we're probably going to look at universities of like, well, you know, they're going to become more and more obsolete. There's only so many rich kids to go around. That'll fill the quotas on the campuses. But back to this, you know, guy's ad, it's like, well, why isn't your son out making a name for himself? What's holding him back? How old is he? And Ogden is a toilet. Certainly in the area I'm in, it's the least desirable area. And if you can't afford to find yourself a place up in Ogden or South Ogden, you know, maybe you need to reevaluate things and go, well, there are 49 other states. You know, I mean, I've moved myself and my family when I was a family man numerous times, you know, under the guise of the grass is greener. And it panned out. It had merit. It had, there was certainly a logic to it. Because I wasn't just thinking of me, I was thinking of my wife and my daughter's future and our futures and our present. And I'm a thinker. So if I make a move, it's an intelligent move. I'm not saying it's a move that every time I can pat myself on the back for, or people will sit around the campfire and sing songs about me. But when I do something, it's calculated. Because I'm a constant thinker, you know? But sometimes I make mistakes. But more times than not, my decisions or group decisions when I was a family man, we didn't look back on it going, man, we fucking dropped the ball, we blew it. So, I mean, you got to adapt, you know, to the climate, to whatever the climate is, meaning your safety, the economics, you know, your personal level of education, and what you have to offer and you can bring to the table professionally. But, you know, I see an ad like this and I'm like, you know, okay, well, it kind of sucks, but, you know, move. Get your son out of the house if there's nothing wrong with him, and worry about yourself. You've raised him, you know. And again, with Utah is an extremely conservative state. People here are very frugal. I would say fringing on what we would call being cheap. And again, they use the model of the federal minimum wage of, I believe, $7.65 an hour. No, people aren't starting at that, but it's not uncommon to see people starting out about $9 an hour. Well, in Washington State, I know in King County, which is Seattle, I think last year it went into effect that it's $15 an hour. And I know in the rest of the Washington State, their set minimum wage is somewhere around $12 an hour. Now, is Washington State more expensive than Utah? I think Seattle certainly is more expensive than Salt Lake City because it's more of a desirable place to live, and it's more there's more diversity, less religion, and I think it's a little more liberal. But you know, you got to go with your best pitch, as they say in baseball. You know, if you feel that you can't compete in Utah, and you can see, and you're right, that Utahns are cheap in their spending and they're cheap in their incomes, unless you're highly skilled, move. You know, look into Arkansas, man, West Virginia. I mean, there's other states out there where it's not nearly as expensive. But you know, I see these ads, and I think the guy has a point. But only so far. You know? I mean, if you really feel that you can't compete, get the fuck out. You know? And like I said, I'm speaking from experience. I'm not just sitting here ranting and raving about some guy's ad that I posted on here. I've thought about it. And I think he has some valid points. But I think I have some equally valid points when I say, look, if you know, if you're going into the bars and you're trying to meet women and you think you got game and your game isn't taking you anywhere but home with your dick in your hand, change your game. Change where you go out. Change your clothes. Whatever. But, you got to go with your best pitch. And some places are going to be better than others for all of us. I admire the guy's efforts, but I think, you have to think about a lot of things. And when I posted the other day about an economy, when I wrote, the real pulse of an economy can't be based on unemployment statistics, because first of all, I don't really believe in unemployment rates. I think they're always more in favor of the true numbers. They're not accurate. And it also depends on what census you're looking at. Is it over 18? Is it full or part-time people? Does that include immigrants, illegal immigrants? Is that over 25? Are we talking about people who have high school diplomas, people with college? It's very unclear to me what unemployment rates are, and people who don't. And I think a lot of it's based from people who filed for unemployment. Well, there's lots of people. There were times when I was unemployed that I didn't file for unemployment, but yet I was unemployed. So, I don't think those statistics are real. And I also don't think an unemployment rate truly depicts the actual numbers. And so many of us look at it like, our economy's doing great, man. Look at our unemployment rate. Well, my thinking is this: for those who have jobs, what are they getting paid? Are they the working poor, or are they thriving? Not only do I have a job, but I'm putting sufficient cash away every month into IRAs, checking and savings accounts, on top of paying all my bills. Okay, I have a job or two jobs, and I'm barely making ends meet, or I'm still not making ends meet. Is that a thriving economy? No. So people, please don't be fooled that the economy is going great because the statistics that are always inaccurate, that are being released by our government, who we know we shouldn't trust, are painting a picture of a reality that's just not there. Hence why guys like this are posting these kinds of ads. I mean, if you can't afford to live in Ogden, now if you're trying to live, say, down in Holiday or Cottonwood Heights, some other nice parts in and around Salt Lake City, that's very expensive. But Ogden? Ogden's a toilet. It's a dirty sink, And that's about 12 miles north of me. But anyways, I just thought I'd share. I'm not even going to get into the political thing, but I'll tell you what, when Trump gets reelected next year, oh boy, I can't even imagine what these feminists are going to do. But, I think we've had a lot of bad government for a long time. And we've had the wrong people running the show. And we're just living under grandeur, rose-colored glasses, too much optimism and or pessimism, not enough realism. And we're finding ourselves just where we are. We're getting fucked in the ass on too many things, but we're allowing it to happen. Because most people's mentality is this: well, what can I do about it? What can we do about it? Well, with that attitude, that's exactly what big business and the government wants you to think. Well, yeah, what can I do about it? And that's why you don't have what you should have. So, just a little message. You guys have a great weekend. I love you.